Welcome to the A-Game podcast, where I help you bring your best to be your best in all areas of life, in your business, your relationships, your career, your health and fitness, any place you want to excel. I'm your host, Steven Griffith, and today's episode is about how to powerfully complete the year and how to prepare for the best version of you in 2025. It's a process that I've taken my clients through and I've personally gone through over the last 10 years. Through a series of provocative questions, we'll together assess your 2024, the challenges you confronted, the victories you experienced, the things you learned. Then we'll delve into how to create an even better 2025. These insights will not only guide you towards reaching your best goals in 2025, but create a more meaningful, confident, and relevant life. Let's get started. Before we start, there are a couple guidelines that will help you get the most out of this process. Number one, I want you to take a piece of paper out and divide it in half with a line from the top all the way to the bottom. On the left side, personal, label that. On the right side, business. It's very important as we go through these questions that you write your answers down. Number two, have your calendar handy. It will help you remember different times and events during the year. Things that happen in January, February, sometimes we forget about, but having that calendar out will be very helpful going through the questions. Number three, have a curious, kind, and compassionate attitude, and be completely honest. You see, if we get over hypercritical or over judgmental, this won't be fun. Believe me, I've done it. And if you get too serious, it just won't be as effective. And then lastly, be willing to review it a few times. As you go through the process, things will, start to percolate up and you'll remember things. So give yourself some space to go through it a couple times, and that's how you'll get the most out of it. Now, let's start reviewing 2024. A couple things to consider that you might be asking yourself is, why do I need to do this process? Well, it's really simple. If you want to bring your best to be your best, you've got to review where you were successful, where you had challenges, where there might be some upsets or setbacks. And by doing that, you can get the learnings and letting go of the negative emotions and the hold that, may be on you. There's another concept called open loops. So an open loop is something that your brain keeps processing that's not complete. And so the more we have an open loop, things that are not complete, questions we have, wondering why things didn't go the way we want, the more it wears on us. And the chance of it happening again in the new year is very high. So we want to close the loops so you're 100% aligned and you can have your best year. All right, let's get starting with completing the old year questions for 2024. Number one, what's your biggest win? I want you to think about your life. I want you to think personally, where was there a win? And then where was it in your business? Maybe as you got in better shape, maybe you closed more sales, maybe you opened a business, whatever it might be, think about what is your win for 2024, personally and professionally. Okay, number two, what was the smartest decision you made this year? Think about personally, what was the decision? What was the decision you made? Your personal life and your business. And then I want you to write that down. As you go, as I said, more things will, they'll bubble up. So you can always go back to these questions, but it's really important when you ask the questions, whatever comes up, you write it down. Number three, what was the biggest lesson you learned? Lessons come in lots of ways. They can be through positive experience or challenges, but what was a lesson you learned for yourself personally? And then what was a lesson or lessons for your business? Now, I'm asking you this as a single question, but there can be multiple things. Please feel free to fully write out whatever comes up for you. All right, number four. What's the biggest piece of unfinished business in 2024? Now, here's what we're talking about really specifically in open loops. Is there something in your business that needs to be complete? Is there something personally that needs to be complete? Is there a conversation you need to have? Is there a project you need to get done? This allows you to focus that energy and to get it done. Number five, what are you most proud about completing in 2024? What are you most proud of? You see, these questions are designed kind of to hit your left and right brain. Some of them are more analytical and some are more emotional, but we want to, look at and honor the things we did and take the time to feel that sense of being pride. That's motivating, that's inspiring. Number 6, who are the 3 people that had the greatest impact on your life in 2024? Now, they may be people that you know, and it may be people that, are a writer or somebody in the political arena or an actor. It could be anybody, somebody that's an activist. It doesn't matter. And it can be also people close to you. So think about who are the people that impacted you the most this year. Now, I tell my clients this. If these are people that you know, let them know that they impacted you. Don't keep it to yourself. I mean, it's a true gift to reach out to them in a letter or face-to-face and just letting them know. We need more of that face-to-face contact and letting people know, because that will inspire and motivate them. And also, it gives value to them that they made a difference. Number 7, who are the 3 people you impacted? Both of these, remember, is personal and professional. Who are the 3 people you think you impacted the most? And you can even write a kind of a side note of how you think you impacted them. Number 8, what's the biggest risk you took in 2024? Now, a lot of times when we go through this risk questions, it's one of those questions for a lot of people get stuck on. And so when you think about it personally and professionally, it's where did you do something that you were uncomfortable, right? Where you were stretching yourself. Now, I will say this to you. If you go through this and it's a complete blank, then you got to start asking yourself, am I playing big enough? Am I going for my goals? Am I really connecting to being relevant, connecting my gifts and talents to the need of the time? Or am I playing it safe? Once again, as you go through this, no judgment about where you're at, but be honest. The more vulnerable you can be with yourself is a direct proportion to the expansion of this next level of your A game, being more relevant. So be honest. But if you're stuck here and you feel like, gosh, I didn't really take any risks, let's think about what we want to do for next year. Okay, number 9. What was the biggest surprise in 2024? What was the biggest surprise personally? What was the biggest surprise professionally? For me, one of the biggest surprises is I released my first album for hypnosis. I've been doing hypnosis for many, many years, professionally recorded many of them. I do a lot of custom hypnosis for, my athletes, my executives, the kids that I work with. And so I actually put it together and published it. And so there's about 15 tracks. It's on Amazon and I think Spotify, a few other places. But that was a big surprise for me. What's a surprise for you? Now, surprises, once again, can be challenging surprises. They can be really great surprises. It doesn't matter. Write it down, personal and professional. Number 10, what was your biggest regret in 2024? Now, I'm not a big person about regrets, but that word regret is a great stimulator of getting the stuff that's in there out, right? And if you have regrets, once again, we want to let go of the negative emotions about it, learn from them, be compassionate with yourself, leave the negative emotions behind, learn the tools and the things you need to do differently and let it go. But it's a good question to dig deeply into that emotion. Be vulnerable, be truthful. And if you have regrets, let's shift it for next year. Number 11, what important relationship improved the most in 2024? Now, think about personally. Is it with your kids, your husband, wife, partner, business partner? And then also don't leave out you. A lot of times the relationship that improved the most is the one you have with yourself, which is amazing. So think about personally and professionally, what improved the most. Number 12, where did you waste the most time? These are these kind of gotcha questions, right? Where did you waste the most time? Was it scrolling on Instagram? Was it Netflix binging? Was it gossiping? Was it working on a project that you should have finished a long time ago? Where did you waste time? Wasting time, right, is a thing that we can instantly get back. But you got to be honest. What were things that you were doing that might have been contaminating, your success and happiness? What were things you were doing to contributing? But being honest, where did you waste time? Number 13, what area can you give yourself forgiveness and compassion in 2024? This may be connected to your regrets or not, but really, when we look at the science and the research behind compassion, right? Compassion, self-compassion to self actually allows us to perform at a higher level. We're all trying to do the best we can, and sometimes things don't go well. We have setbacks. We have things that I'm going to call our perceived failures, and beating ourselves up about it doesn't really do anything, right? Being there for ourselves, like a good friend would be, allows us to get the learnings and get back into action and make a difference for what matters in our life, personally and professionally. Remember, we're answering both sides. What did you do to become more relevant in 2024? So this question I love. So let's get back to what relevant means. Relevant means connecting to your gifts and talents for the need of the time. My mentor, Tom Knowles, my Vedic mentor, he presented this to me years ago, and it's really how I coach and look at my life. So when you're looking at connecting to your gifts and talents and bringing it to the need of the time, your happiness increases, your success increases, your ability to make a difference. And if we're not continuing to focus on being relevant, we're starting to move backwards. Life is passing us by, okay? Relevant means meeting the need of the times and being of service to ourselves and others. 15, what else do you need to do or say to be complete with 2024? Once again, this is an open loop question. Across the board, what else do you need to do, right? We had a previous question similar to this. We want to really look at, what do I need to finish so my next year can be clean, personally and professionally? Number 16, what did you do to support and strengthen your legacy in this year? So when we look at legacy, a lot of people look at legacy like at the end of their life, right? Legacy in my work is every moment in time, the decisions that you're making, the actions you're taking or not. And we think about legacy like, how do we want to be remembered? But I really look at it as how do we get to be the best we can be in who we are, right? It's a little different way to look at it. So what did you do? What did you say? Who were you being to strengthen your legacy, both in your business and in your personal life? Okay, last question to complete the year. And once again, review this, go through it, go through the questions. Take the time to thank the year for all it provided for you. Now, some people think that's a little woo-woo, that's a little out there, but really, everything that happened can be a gift for you. It's only a gift if you get the learning from it. It will not be a gift if you pretend it didn't happen, you don't analyze it, you don't look at it. The year is a gift no matter what happened, but get your learnings, right? Leave the negative emotions and the negative thoughts behind. Take the learnings, move forward, and be compassionate with yourself. And that's going to be the great setup for 2025. Okay, now that we completed 2024, let's roll up our sleeves and let's look at the questions for creating the best year for 2025. All right, number 1, what would you like your biggest win to be in 2025? Now, I want you to think about it. You got personal and professional, and these can be, related to your goals. But what do you want? And you can write a few down, but what do you want your biggest win to be? Is it getting in shape, increasing your sales, having a better relationship, having more fun, right? Having more fun in your life. I deal with a lot of successful people that just aren't having fun. So whatever it might be, write it down. Number 2, what advice would you like to give yourself in 2025? I love this question because it has you kind of be the coach to you, right? And so think about like the higher version of you giving you the advice. So looking at the end of next year, looking at all the things you might want to complete or do or be, and then what's the advice? Do you need to be more patient? Do you need to be more assertive? Do you need to be more focused? But what advice would you give yourself to be that best version, your A game? Number 3, what's the major effort you are planning to improve your results in 2025? Now, a lot of these questions are designed to stimulate the brain in different ways. So what is that effort? What do you want to really go for in these years, in this year? What is it? Be clear. And when you're answering these questions, be willing to stretch the comfort. You don't want to be overwhelmed, right? When we set goals, we don't want to be overwhelmed, but we also don't want to play it safe. It should feel a little bit more uncomfortable, not overwhelming. Okay, number 4, what would you be most happy about completing in 2025? What is it that you want to complete? Is there a project? Are you the project? What do you want to complete? And be really clear. So when you're answering these questions, the more specific you can be, the more there's the possibility of you creating it. Number 5, what would you most like to shift or change about yourself in 2025? This is a great one. So when you look at your whole life, both in your personal and professional area, what is it that you want to change about yourself? You want to be more patient? Do you want to be more tenacious? Do you want to be more loving and self-compassionate? I can tell you that most of my clients, being self-compassionate is one of the things that there's room for improvement. Or is it to have more fun? Write it down for yourself personally and professionally. Number 6, what are you looking forward to learning in 2025? So a lot of times we can get focused on just performing and just doing the same things, if it's making money or getting in better shape. But what do you want to learn? See, the learning actually helps you stay more relevant. It's more information coming in. It's taking the time to expand your regular thinking, right? That's why I like to travel. This year I went to India for a couple weeks and Japan. What is that doing? It's helping me learn about other cultures. It's having me reflect on how I'm living my life. And both of those cultures really, some realigned, how I was already living, and the others were giving me, insights. When I was in India, it was very interesting, all these millions of people smashed in to each other, and I saw no one getting in arguments. Everyone was happy with much less than what we have. And when I came back, I realized a lot of the things that I was focusing on just didn't matter. It's kind of nonsense. So when we learn, that can be in many ways. It can be travel, it can be reading, it can be educating ourselves on anything, a new language, the stock market, playing a guitar, it doesn't matter. Being more patient, more compassionate. Pick something to expand your learning. Number 7, what is the best compliment you would like to receive this upcoming year? Now, this will also move into some of the following questions, but it's really about, who do you want to be? Who do you want to represent? Who do you want to be in how people see you, right? And so thinking about, gosh, did I want to be there for my family more? Did I want to be unstoppable? Did I want to be more compassionate? Did I want to be tenacious? A lot of these things we want to think about, and that will change our beingness into the things that we're doing. As I said previously, these questions kind of overlap, and they're stimulating the brain in different ways for us to go deep and to really prepare for this year. Okay, 8, what do you think your biggest risk will be in 2025? Once again, this is a question that when we look at our personal life or professional, we want to have it to be a little uncomfortable. We don't want to play it safe. So if you write something down and there's a little apprehension, make it bigger. Make it bigger. Number 9, what are you most hopeful about in 2025? Hope is so important in our lives, right? Hope gives us something to look for, gives us an intention, right? Hope alone is not successful. We need hope with strategy. But what are you hopeful? What speaks to your heart? What speaks to your heart? And so I want you to write down that personally and professionally. 10. What can you stop, start, or change to get what you want in 2025? Now, this is a big question, folks. So if you want to go deeper, take out a piece of paper and put stop, start, and change. And you just look at your behaviors, your habits. I want to stop being on Instagram. I want to start going to the gym. I want to change my disposition to be more positive, right? Whatever it is. This number 10, you can go wild with. And I added it this year to the questions because it's what I call fast therapy. It'll get you right down to exactly things that can make an impact in your life right now. So you can do it. You can do this for any project you're on, your general life, a goal. What do you need to stop? What do you need to start? Or what do you need to change to get what you want? Each one of those questions stimulate the brain differently. So take your time here. This is really one of those bonus questions. Number 11, who do you want to invest more time with in 2025? Who do you want to invest more time with? Who are the people? Where do you want to do it? And it can be projects or people, but this is important. The people we're around, it's important that they're a reflection of us. Do we like being around them? Is it fun? Do they challenge us? Do they stimulate us? So personally and professionally. 12, how can you hold yourself more accountable to your goals and dreams in 2025? This is a deep question because, the more we hold ourselves accountable to our words and our actions, the more we're going to be successful. We're in a world sometimes where, we see what our politicians are doing, and in the world, when we think about, accountability and some of the nonsense that we're seeing is, we've got to come back to our own home court and say, okay, how can I be more accountable to the time I'm using, the goals and the dreams I have? And it all comes down to where you want to invest your time and being honest with yourself and daily asking yourself, did I do what I said I was going to do? And if not, make those adjustments. Number 13, what one thing can you do to enhance your legacy in 2025? What is it? What's that area in your personal, professional life? Do you want to be more consistent? Do you want to be more confident in your actions? Do you want to be more of service? Do you want to spend more time with your family or in your business? What is it for you that you can do to enhance the beingness, who you are, right? That made a difference. Number 14, who or what can you love even more in 2025? Another one of my favorites, right? In this world, we're in this 24/7 hamster wheel. A lot of times we just don't stop and ask, how can I love this person more? How can I love the things I'm doing more, right? Because love brings that powerful energy, and that includes yourself. I would ask all of you to look at, can I love myself more, right? Because then that beams out. We know in self-compassion, the more self-compassion we are to ourselves, the more we have for others. Who can you love even more? Personally, professionally. Number 15, what brings you the most joy, and how are you going to do or have more of that in 2025? As I said earlier, a lot of my high performers, the fun factor is not really high. Now, over time, it's not fun not having fun. And it's kind of like a hockey stick. You can do it so long, and all of a sudden it's like, what am I doing all this for, right? Why am I grinding myself in my business, or why am I doing these other things if I'm not having fun? Now, we don't want to just have fun and not be attention to the things we need, but we need more fun. We need more fun. And we need more joy. Number 16, who do you need to be to have more of what you want in 2025? So a lot of times we get focused on the doing, right? But really it all comes down to who do you need to be? See, the beingness drives the doingness. So really take the time. Do I need to be more patient? Do I need to be more kind? Take the time to really think about, who do I need to be? That drives everything. The doing will follow that easily. So in your business, personally, who do you need to be? It's a question I ask every one of my clients, because that is going to get to the core of deep motivation and inspiration to be at your A game, okay? And number 17, last question to get ready for 2025. I love this one. What one word would you like to have as your theme or phrase for 2025? Think about it, write it down, and as a reflection on both of these processes, completing 2024 and getting ready for 2025, take the time. Don't rush through this. Pick it up a bunch of times, and after you have it written down, review it. Review it. Have it handy. Okay, now it's time for the Q&A game with my producer, Mike Smith. And here's where Mike's going to ask me questions that have come from followers, listeners, clients. And Mike, let's get started with those questions.
Steven, you're so popular that we have many questions from our viewers sent in by email, by phone calls, by fax, by carrier pigeon. There's a guy out there with a sandwich board. There's a blimp that went over.
Awesome.
Everyone wants to talk to you and get the answers.
Awesome.
So let me ask the first one. What's the best way to implement the answers to the questions that we just covered in your podcast? What's the best way that I can put those into action?
So, first of all, there's a lot of questions, and as I suggested that you want to review the questions, go through them multiple times, and then chart out really what your goals are, what specifically you want to accomplish, and then start calendaring the activities, right? But take the information from the sheet and write out the highlights, the things that really stuck out for you, right? On the completing the year, like the lessons and learnings, the tactics, because a lot of learning comes from completing the year and then looking at the 2025 and going, okay, how do I want to implement this? Who do I need to be? What are the actions? And then calendar it. And, it can be weekly, monthly, quarterly goals and the action steps. Don't get overwhelmed. Pick one or two things you want to focus in on and then just go for it.
Yeah, I think people have a tendency, I know I do this myself, to have sort of pie-in-the-sky goals for the year. And then maybe I'm not clear when I write those down and I get those in my mind, what it takes to accomplish that goal. How can I get clear on that? How can I have reasonably, practically achievable goals for 2025?
Yeah, great question. A lot of people get motivated. It's the end of the year. They've got some free time. It's like, I'm going to do fill in the blank, lose 20 pounds, double my sales. And they kind of gold dust that goal and just think it's somehow magically going to happen. So not bad or wrong, but we want to have what we call stretch goals. What we've done in the past, what's reasonable and feels a bit out of touch. Like, oh, that's a little too much. That's when we know that goal is right there. So let's just take the easy one. Somebody wants to lose, 20 pounds, right? Well, you're not going to lose 20 pounds in a month, right? But if we start looking at, a pound a week, okay, I can do that. And then what are the things that I actually need to do? I need to go to the gym a couple times, need to change my food. So then we want to look at how much time. But the biggest challenge people have is they haven't addressed what is the price I need to pay for this goal. And then am I willing to pay it? Now, if you're not willing to pay that price, shorten the goal, right? And then making sure that you have allocated the right amount of time. Every goal requires time. So you can't just go, I'm going to throw this big goal on and add 10 more hours into my week. We've got to recover 10 hours of, Instagramming or Netflixing. It's very easy if you use that formula.
So it's about maintaining the goal, but maybe, as you say, shortening it, or I read that as meaning make it more practically achievable. Is that what we're talking about?
Right. If you're saying, we're using the weight, if I want to lose a pound a week, what does that take? Okay, that takes 3 hours a week in the gym. That means I've got to change my nutrition, maybe a little meal prep, right? That's time. So we just say, I've got to add 6 hours into my week, no problem. And then saying, how do I actually do that? Now we have sustainable, actionable goals over a period of time.
So maybe a little less binging of Netflix, a little less hanging and shopping online, something like that.
Yep.
in order to be able to commit to achieve that goal.
Got to recover time to invest time.
Got it. I can relate to this one. This individual says, I tend to beat myself up with some of my answers to your questions. How do I get past what we might call my own harsh criticism?
Yeah, super normal. That's why I prefaced it, and still people will do it because it's just human nature, right? If you've gone through your whole life beating yourself up just because you did a process of question doesn't mean it's just going to turn off. Super common. I've done it in the past. Here's the thing we got to remember, and it goes back to self-compassion. Number one, being mindful that you're being critical, not over-identifying it, not dissociating from it. Number two, here's the real important part, Mike, on this one. Understanding, listener, that what you're going through is what we call common humanity. It's a human experience. It's not just you. See, when we separate ourselves from the tribe and believe something's defective or wrong with us, that's when we get really harsh. But when we come back in and go, okay, this was challenging. I had a hard time. I'm not the only one that goes through it, right? And then step three, self-kindness. Those are the words to self and, positive actions to self. And, having kind dialogue with self. And then the last step, the and. After we've calmed our nervous system down, right? The and is taking the information from that questionnaire, that process, and creating new tactics and strategies, right? The more compassionate we are, we know from the research, the higher we perform. The more critical we are, that can dampen our performance.
That's kind of the switch that needs to get flipped, right? You need to go into, or I need to go into, or this questioner needs to go into, this area that you talk about a lot, which is self-compassion, which is a decision that one can make,
100%.
as opposed to feeling like I have been put upon, or that the world is conspiring against me, or that I've never been able to do what I want to do. It's a decision that, with optimism, that you can do it.
100%. All change starts with a decision, and then the actions that follow that create the outcome. Self-compassion for a lot of people is hard to do because they feel like, gosh, if I'm kind to myself, it's going to take my edge off, or it's self-indulgent. All the research would show something different, that by being self-compassionate, we actually calm the nervous system to make actionable change. If we're beating ourselves up, it's not allowing our nervous system to be calm, and so we're not going to have the same productivity out of it.
And you're miserable all through the process.
Yeah. We've all been around ourselves, beating ourselves up that we don't like, and we've also been around other people. We want to avoid that.
Exactly. And this individual asks, it seems overwhelming for me to try to make changes in my life. What can you tell me to give me hope that I can get it done? So this is kind of what we were just talking about, but with the added idea of I need to be hopeful. How can I have that hope to proceed?
Well, everyone in their life have had something they wanted to change and changed it. I've never worked with somebody that did not change something. Most of us have forgotten about it and have let the outside world start to put the pressure on. If you're on Instagram all day long and seeing these magical lives of everyone, that's going to ruin hope for anybody. 90% of that stuff's made up. It's filtered. Yeah. It's edited. So number one, get off the social media and the outside influences. Get aligned what matters to you, and then make small changes. Everyone has changed something. And we've got to remember that we do have the ability, and get coaching. Read books. There's so much information out there to help us get moving, get inspired, to get motivated, that we've just got to decide, I'm going to go for this.
Yeah, and let go of the idea maybe that everyone, and this is a social media thing, that everybody's having a better life than I am. Yeah. And that can be very depressing and sort of, kind of encourage you not to take action.
100%. Yeah. Avoid that. It's fake.
It's fake news, as they say. Tradition dictates that we consider these kinds of things, these changes that we want to make, at the end of the year. Is the process that we just heard from you something that can be done anytime during the year, not just at the end of the year?
Correct. A lot of those questions, what do we need to stop, start, or change? Anywhere you get stuck in your life, anytime you can use that question. You can do it monthly, quarterly, after a project was done. You can cherry pick the questions. The questions are designed in a very specific way. They're overlapping from what I call left and right brain. Some are more feeling questions, some are more logical, linear questions. Those things impact our brain differently, and that's why, the questions are set up the way they're set up. These questions can be used any time to reflect and create change.
And doesn't have to be just done individually, correct? I mean, this could be a group process. There could be an organization or a team or a family that does this as a group exercise.
100%. I love having my families do this at the end of the year. So if I'm working with an executive or an athlete or even the kids, getting them together, going through the questions, reflecting. I mean, think about this. I mean, I don't know about you, Mike, but growing up, no one asked me these questions. I mean,
No.
I was just trying to survive. And to have the reflection and then tools to actually make a difference, to be our best, to be more relevant. I mean, what a great experience for a whole family to do, as well as teams.
Right. Maybe you can comment on this. This is something others have talked about in correspondence with the show, which is getting into a rut of never considering these kinds of questions. In other words, just letting life pull us through hour to hour, day to day, week to week, until you look around and you say, I don't know what I just did, but I'm life is carrying me down this river, and I don't seem to have the rudder in my hand. What can you tell somebody who wants to break out of that sort of life just taking me down the road by itself without me intervening at all?
Well, first of all, that's what most people are doing. And without judging, I mean, most people are on autopilot. It's like the hamster on the wheel, hamster on the wheel, hamster on the wheel. And so when we stop and ask these questions, so something is happening when we ask these questions and stop. We are stopping the wheel. We're not just stopping the wheel, we're actually now asking deep, meaningful, and powerful questions to give us insight to what is possible. The always repeatable known is the worst thing you can do in your life. I'm going to say this again. The always repeatable known. So when we learn something new, we use our entire brain, right? And then it becomes a habit, less of our brain. Then it becomes a habit. Now it's autopilot. Things that we did 10 years ago probably are not things we should be doing today. So we've got to stop and go, okay, like we did today, what are the questions to make me more relevant, to wake myself up? And when I'm teaching, my clients or organizations, that's why the importance of meditation is so important. Meditation it allows us to stop the hamster wheel, to ground ourselves, which then allows all the noise to stop and go, oh, I need to put some more attention there. Oh, I should have that conversation there. So it's the stopping and asking that gives us the insight for us to continue to bring our best to be our best.
Why do people have such trouble with this sort of thing? I guess it's a twofold question. Why is it so avoided? To consider who you are, why you are, where you're going, why the day progresses the way it does for you. What is the stopper in somebody's mind? Is it habit? Is it just? It can't be comfort. Because it isn't always comfortable.
Well, it is comfort. It's kind of a dichotomy. So it's a comfort. See, the brain loves habits, good habits or bad habits. So when the brain doesn't have to think and it goes on autopilot, it loves that. So this is why we want to program positive things we don't have to think about. But what happens is, culturally, we're in a hypnosis. The phone that we're carrying around is sucking us into it. It's distracting us, and it's eating our time up. And so when we're stressed out, we've got high cortisol, we're just trying to survive, our caveman brain is going, survive. You don't need to be asking yourself questions. You got to go make money. You got to provide. And so we kind of put the 2x4 in the fan with these questions, just stops it and allows great insight. And secondarily, people fear the discomfort. It's way more uncomfortable to live an unfulfilled life than taking some time to be uncomfortable short term to actually create manageable change.
Here's another question. What kind of person has trouble keeping the resolutions? And how can I avoid being that person?
Well, first of all, everyone, I'm going to say
Okay.
everyone
All right.
is that person because we can get distracted. There's no kind of person. It just goes back to what do I want? Why do I want it? What's the time and tools I need to get it done? And am I willing to pay for it? So, when we get sick and tired of being sick and tired, we do things. I work with clients and see clients and talk to clients all the time. People call me all the time. About half of those people are not really ready for change. They kind of think about they want change. And then when there's any kind of resistance for change, time or money or effort, then it's like, oh, I don't really want to do that. Unfortunately, for most people, there needs to be pain. Now, if you've had substantial pain and you've moved through that and you've transformed where you're at, the next challenge that comes, you don't need so much pain. You can start seeing it. You know what? I need to start taking action now. So we're all the same. We're all in common humanity, this whole human experience. But that strategy of looking at it and implementing it is what it takes. And to know it's going to be uncomfortable and I can deal with it.
Can you talk about the disconnect, I guess I'll call it, that happens between the recognition of a goal and the commitment to achieve the goal? To me, that is the disconnect point. I think people are great at coming up with, hey, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that, I'd like to do this. What they're not great at is, therefore, I must do A, B, and C in order to achieve that particular thing. Now, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but it's just becoming clear to me that maybe is the disconnect point for most people.
Well, a lot of people have a disconnect in many ways around their goals, but the disconnect is, I'm going to keep going back to this. What's it going to take? Am I willing to do it? What's it going to take? Am I willing to do it? You got to be willing to pay the price. Sometimes we got to start and then change as we go. That's okay. We start with one goal, we make it bigger or shorter or smaller. That's okay, but we just got to start. If you jump off the ground, you're not thinking about how you're going to land. Right? You just land. Same thing with your goal. Get moving.
Yeah. Are you saying that any forward motion in the direction of achievement of a goal is a good start?
100%, even if it's the wrong thing.
Even if it's the wrong thing?
100%, because you are taking action. You are stopping the repeatable known. Wrong action will create insight and course correct. When you're in your car and you got that Google map, which most of the time works, it's on a satellite. It's making micro changes all the time. Same thing with goals. Get moving. Life will inform you. Oh, you know what? Don't need to do that, but I can do this. And it may take you to a door that's closed for the next door that's open, and that's the door. But you gotta, I say this, there's only one direction, it's forward, and there's only one time, and it's now. You gotta get moving. The hardest part for people is getting moving.
I think a lot of people have a problem with, okay, I've identified the goal, and now I have to come up with the perfect way to achieve it. And if I can't do that, then it's not worth pursuing.
It's the paralysis by analysis.
Yeah.
It's the subconscious mind is, I'm getting ready to get ready, right? I'm going to lose 10 pounds so I can go to the gym. That is never going to happen.
Yeah.
It's taking one step, just 1% better, 1% better, 1% better. The getting ready to get ready is a sabotaging technique of the mind.
Although it's safe, isn't it, in a weird way? Well, it's familiar because maybe subconsciously I want to defeat myself because it's going to be too hard to make the change.
Yeah, it's just all the old programming.
Here's one of the last questions we have here. What's the most important thing I need to keep in mind as I enter the new year? We've talked about all of the potential changes and the commitment that is necessary to make that happen. But what's the most important thing I need to keep in mind as I look at 2025?
Yeah, whatever you think's going to happen is not going to happen.
All right.
Now, let me explain that a little bit
Thank
more.
you, Professor Positive.
Yeah, let me explain to that. There's never a time in our lives. Now, there might be bigger or smaller changes that here's the plan, it goes perfectly. It just doesn't work. You turn on the NFL on Sunday, right? 2 teams have a perfect plan. It never goes that way. Does that mean we don't plan? Of course we do. We get in the car and do the GPS. Now the GPS goes, oh, you need to make a left, get on this freeway instead. So the thing is to know I'm setting my intention and goals. and things are going to change. And when they change, don't be surprised. Just course correct. And the second part of this, be compassionate as you go.
Final question. You've asked the audience to consider what they want to achieve and maybe got into how to achieve it for 2025. Let me ask you, what's the one or two things you want to achieve in 2025?
Yeah, good question, Mike. You know, for me, I think, I've spent over 25 or 30 years coaching, majority of that one-on-one. And I think, for this year, this podcast especially, expanding it, getting it into the homes of, so many people for this information, because my why is to help people eliminate, potential suffering and really transform where they're at to where they want to be, that performance gap. So really the biggest goal for me is to expand, my online offerings, especially the podcast, getting that, to parents, teens, athletes, executives, entrepreneurs, and giving them real actionable tools, stuff that works, that's science-based, that can transform where they're at.
And I lied. One more question. And how do you know when they have made that transformation? I'm talking about your clients in particular. What do you see that tells you they're on the right road?
Oh, it's real simple. It goes back to my mentor, Tom Knows. He told me this when I started meditating with him over 10 years ago in the Vedic style. He said, Steven, you'll know things have changed when you are operating different than everyone else around you. And it's like the example of being at the airport. The airplane gets delayed, or snowed in, everyone's freaking out, and you're just sitting there, yeah, this will work out. This will work out. So it's when you see you're operating different than others. There's no judgment to others, but then you're saying, gosh, I'm not reacting to everything. I'm responding. Oh, I'm having more calm emotions. I can regulate negative emotions. Those are some cues.
Excellent. Well, that's all the questions we have for now, and we'll have more next time.
All right, Mike, thanks for the questions, the Q&A game. That's it for today's episode. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below, and be sure to like and comment, follow, subscribe. Until next time, I'm Steven Griffith, helping you to always bring your A game.